Well, hello out there to everybody, all you beautiful black podcasters and audio professionals. Welcome to the Afros and Audio Instagram Live, IG Live Creative Conversations. Tonight we are having a great conversation with Porsha, Miss Porsha Williams Gates. We are super excited. Hey, Porsha,
Hey,
how you doing?
I'm great. Thank you. I'm so great.
Awesome. Hey, Chi Chi. Chi Chi girl. Look, I was combining TT and Sha Lovely. I'm pretty sure I said that wrong. But anyway, as I was saying, welcome to the Afros and Audio Creative Conversations. Tonight, I'm really excited because we're gonna definitely be talking about podcasting and things like that. But y'all know sometimes we like to just talk about other shit, right? Because the reality is that as podcasters, we all have other things that we're doing, right? And so, Porsha, I was super excited when I was like reading over your bio and everything like that. And I started seeing that, you do healing work and that, you really kind of like exist in that realm. And I was like, oh, this is a great opportunity because it's something that I'm definitely interested in. And I think that it's something that, I think it really illustrates how vast and varied your topics can be, because I just feel like that's an area that I don't see a whole lot on in podcasting. And I know I don't think you don't do a healing podcast, right?
No,
I
I
mean,
don't
you
do
got so
any.
many, girl. You got 50, 11 podcasts out here in these streets. You know what I'm saying? So Portia, go ahead first and foremost and introduce yourself to everyone. Let them know who you are and what it is that you do.
Yeah, sure. First of all, thank you, Latrice and Afros on Audio for having me. I'm super excited to be here. So I am Porsha Williams Gates. Some people know me as, Reverend Porsha. Some people know me as Pastor Porsha. I am many things. And so I am currently the founder and CEO of Porshanality Media. I have also served in the capacity of being a preacher, and a pastor. And I'm also a Reiki practitioner and healer and tarot reader and all of those great things that come with being an intuitive healer. I'm also editor and producer of several podcasts that you can see that are listed under Porshanality Media. So that's a lot of fun for me. And I'm also the great spouse of Mr. Jamal Richardson Gates. That's my spouse. So, I'm really proud of that. You feel me? So, yeah.
Look, girl, you made me choke on my spit, girl. I was gonna say as you should be, okay? Listen, I understand not, marriage is not for everybody, and there's a lot of people who choose not to marry. And I support your decision 100% if that's what you want to do. But as for me in my house, hallelujah. Listen, I love my husband and I'm very glad to be married to him. So I get it. I totally understand where you coming from. Yeah. All right. So Portia, let's start off by talking about all of the things that you're doing because you have a lot of different categories. I thought I was a busy woman, but I started doing research to talk to you tonight and I was like, well, damn, what do she don't do? You know what I'm saying? So let's start off by talking about your podcasts, right? So on your website, I want to say I was counting again just to be sure I had the right count, girl. But I see 5 different podcasts on your website right now. How do you determine what you're going to create a podcast on? What does that schedule look like for you in order to make sure that you're on top of everything? And why you got so many podcasts, girl?
So, all of the podcasts listed on Portionality aren't necessarily all mine in terms of the hosting, but I am behind them in terms of the production and the editing. So there's only I'm oh gosh, I'm okay. So I'm actually active on 3. So I'm on Just Two Pearls, which was the very first podcast I've ever did, and that was with one of my girlfriends from seminary. We just got together, two good friends, and we just like, let's do a podcast. So that's how I started. Then I did have my solo podcast, which is Porshanality, which is just me. Fun fact, that is how I actually, doing that podcast is actually how I met my spouse in the first place. That's how I met him. Yeah. And then we do a podcast together, which is Guys Got Jokes. It started off as a YouTube channel, and we was like, you know what? We can transition all of this into audio. And so it just happened to become a podcast because we were doing a YouTube show. And then the other podcast that I'm working with, Womanist Salon podcast, Fish Sandwich Heaven podcast, and Say It Out Loud. Those are all projects that I've been working on. All of these women who are on these podcasts, they're all preachers, just like me. And so together, it is our way of like expanding the pulpit, expanding what does it mean to be a preacher, expanding what does it mean, to do church, air quotes, like what does it mean just to get the good word out? And so for me, podcasting is all about getting out a positive message. And that's really important to me. So all of that scheduling, it just, thank God for a good team, because all of that comes together with a good team. So shout out to Imani and Casey, who helped me make it happen. Who are with me over at Porshanality Media. So literally the scheduling, it's a lot of Google Docs and Google Drives and calendars and scheduling to say this goes out this day. We got to meet with these people this day. And so yeah, it's a lot of scheduling to stay on top of it.
Yeah. So, shout out to the team or whatever. But I like the idea, like what you're saying about, really bringing the message from behind the pulpit, right? So kind of expanding the pulpit, as you said. I a couple months ago, probably actually longer than that, girl, quarantine time, girl, I be losing myself in the quarantine time,
I feel you.
And so I don't know how long ago it was, but a while ago, I came across randomly a podcast by a Jewish rabbi. And I really actually got into the podcast. It was basically like their, Bible study. And he just recorded the Bible study. And I thought that was such an interesting idea because, nowadays, I think that people are really craving some type of spiritual connection, right? So I think not as many people maybe are connected to religiosity and things like that, but we are still craving that spiritual connection to a higher being, to something higher. For me, that's God, right? But everybody may not have a name for that, right? And so being able to create a podcast or create a show where you can deliver the message and deliver the information outside of the church house, because so many people are church house averse, and so I think that's a really, really interesting idea. So is that like a niche area that you are looking to kind of specialize in, kind of grow that space?
Yeah, I would definitely say so. And I want to just give a quick shout out to Jamie, who started with me in Just Two Pearls. So I see Reverend Jamie Crumley. She is in the room. So, hey, Jamie girl.
Hey, Jamie girl. I saw Imani was like, Imani over here too. Hey, Imani, I see you, sis.
Yes. And so it's really important for me to, in my work and in my research, it's really important. So yeah, it's a niche for me. I think about how women.
Uh-oh. We lost your sound, girl.
Oh, okay, I'm back.
Somebody was calling you, girl. Tell them people you're on the live stream, girl. Tell them don't be calling your phone.
Maybe it was Jesus on the main line, right? No,
hey, tell them what you're wrong. Glory.
So yeah, it's definitely a niche, because I think about women who were silenced in church, right? Women who wanted to preach but couldn't, or particularly Black women who wanted to have a message and felt called into ministry, but some spaces still don't allow people to speak and get up, and some people are still talking from the floor, like right in churches. Some people are still not being invited to preach or to speak, or even if they're licensed and ordained. And so for me, while I don't want to necessarily get boxed in, because I believe, I believe in the good message. It doesn't necessarily have to be a Christian perspective per se, but I also really do believe in just giving women the mic and giving women the platform to speak what's on their heart, to speak what God has given them, to continue to spread positivity, love, light, and correction, because that's real too. So all of that is important to me. And so to continue in what does it mean to spread the gospel to the ends of the earth? Like, that's important work to me. Just spreading that good news. So yeah, it's definitely a niche for sure.
Absolutely. I think that's beautiful, and it's something that's really needed. I tell people all the time, one of my, favorite things about podcasting and about the podcasting industry in general is that there is literally something for everyone,
Yes.
And if you have a message, if you have something that you feel like you want to share, then you can create that podcast and you will find your audience, because if you're looking for it, 9 times out of 10, they're looking for it as well, And so I love that this idea of podcasting kind of ushering spirituality into the new age. You know what I'm saying? Like making sure that, because I think sometimes what can happen, more specifically with, religiosity and things like that, is that they get stuck in the past. They get stuck in tradition. They get stuck in the past, like you said, excuse me, like you said, like women not being in the pulpit, right? Like this is a major issue that women traditionally have not really had a place in the church, not up front, right? And so this podcasting space, because just because they was never not necessarily allowed in the front in the church house, don't mean they had nothing to say,
Hello.
And so this is podcasting really opens that door and kind of forces the Christian community, and not just the Christian community, but any, spiritual realm kind of community, to introduce themselves to the 21st century,
Yes.
I think that's a beautiful, beautiful thing. So you talked about some of the shows you are the host or co-host, and then some of the shows you actually kind of work on under your brand, Porshanality Media. So talk to us a little bit about what kind of services do you offer under your brand, Porshanality Media, and, how would someone know that it's time for them to seek out that level of support?
Yeah. So Porshanality Media is fully post-production. So we are there, by post-production, I mean, like, we're there to walk you through your process, right? So we're there for you when you have an idea and you're like, you know what? I want to start a podcast. How do I go about it? We are your folks, literally, to help walk you through, one, how to get this podcast going. What is the structure of your podcast? What is the listening experience? We're really big on sound design and listening experience of what is the experience that we're going to have. So it's not just so much the content, right? Content is important, but also what is the experience? What is the mood that you're trying to set? So we really, really, really pride ourselves on taking sound design and sound experience so seriously. So my father is in the music industry and I grew up around production. So sound is really important to me. So I want to know, like, what do you want your listeners to feel? Is it 30 minutes of just straight talk, or is it an hour of something that you can hear throughout the day as you're going throughout your day doing your errands? So the other services that we offer in post-production is editing, sound mixing, we distribute, and we do your intro and your outro services, and we also just continue to offer support and troubleshoot. And so how people come to us, it's like, if you realize that this is a lot, because podcasting is a marathon, not a sprint, right?
Yeah.
And we know people go into pod fade so easily, and that it's hard to keep up. And so most people just want to get behind the mic and say what they need to say and then, like, be done. But that's where we come in, right? We help you to get your show going, to make sure it sounds amazing, to get the editing, get all the ums and the spaces and all the blips out, so that you can have a cohesive show, and all of the assembly, right? Because truth be told, as someone who has been the host, as someone who is also behind the scenes, I know how much work goes into so many podcasts. So if you need somebody to be like, listen, Porsha, I ain't really trying to do all this. I just want to get on the mic and you just handle it. I'm your girl.
Absolutely. I love that, and you are absolutely right. Podcasting is a whole lot of work, and people do, I think a lot of times on the outside looking in, people say, "Oh, that's easy. I could do that," and so they create this show and they jump on the mic or whatever, and then it's like, yeah, but you got to clean that up. You got to clean up that audio. Like I've gotten, I think I'm pretty good at podcasting at this point, and so I've gotten to the point where I'm learned how to record like almost in a single take, right? But even though, because I hate editing, like hate it. I hate editing. But so I record as smoothly as I can. I've learned to get comfortable with, a few imperfections, because I feel like it kind of humanizes the show. It makes it, feel a little bit more warmer, if you will. But I still have to clean up that audio. I still have to make sure that the audio is clean. I have to make sure that it's crisp. I have to make sure that the music is not too loud, and everything like that. So there's still some steps that need to be taken, and I'm glad that we have strong Black women like yourself, hallelujah, who know what they're doing, who can actually get in there and help to get those things up and running. Because we talked about pod fade, but I wonder how many podcasts never get past the first episode because they record and then they realize that they don't know how to do all of that other stuff. They don't know how to do the editing and all of that. And so they just kind of give up on it, right? And we are all about amplifying Black voices. And so we want to make sure that we are introducing our audience to individuals who can help them get their things up and off the ground as quickly as possible. So I love that. I love that. Before we move on to talking about some of your other stuff, I see that you have a podcast with your husband.
Yes. yes, we do.
So the name of the podcast with your husband is God's Got Jokes TV, the podcast. And you said that this started on YouTube. It started as a YouTube show. And you decided to pull that audio and convert it into a podcast.
Yep.
Talk to me about what it's like to work with your husband, in an actual working capacity, because that's not for everybody. That's not for everybody, right? My husband did when we were living in Texas. When we first got married, our first year of marriage, we were living in Texas, and I had a radio interview at a local station there in Fort Hood, Texas, where we were. And my husband came down there with me. He came up to the radio, he's like, "I'm not going to say anything, babe." My husband is Jamaican. That's my really bad Jamaican accent. So he said, "I'm not going to say anything, babe. I'm not going to say anything." And then he get in there, and the host was like, "Man, you going to get on the mic, man? You going to get on the mic?" And he's like, No. Girl, by the time we left there, my husband was on the microphone, comfortable with headphones on. Like he held the whole conversation like they was talking to him more than they was talking to me. But he just is not really interested in doing that. So when I saw that you had a show with your husband, I was like, "Oh, how do you make that work? What needs to be in place in order to be able to create with your spouse?"
Yeah, that's such a good question. You want to know something? You were the first person to ever ask me that. So I'm really excited and really hyped.
I know I got a little bun or whatever because I got my hair did the other day. You know what I'm saying? But you know what I'm saying. Go ahead, girl.
I love it. Oh my goodness. So so Jamal and I, fun fact, so we started the whole Guys Got Jokes TV in the pandemic. We literally it's almost a year to the date. The 22nd of this month will make a year of us. We got on live one day on Instagram and on Facebook, and we was just like, "Yo, we live. We finna do this Sunday brunch. Y'all just went to church online, but here we are." And so literally it started like that. And we're just like, you know what? People want to see us come back next week. Okay, let's do it again. And my husband, he's a comedian. Jamal is a comedian. He is a stand-up comedian in New York City. And so the relationship is all kind of this creative energy all the way around, right? So I'm a creative, he's a creative, we're two creatives, and we just love doing stuff together. And we're just like we're just such a funny group of people. Like it's really, it's hilarious. Our house is hilarious. So working with him is, I will say this, it is so much fun. Like, I love him as my partner, and I can say this because he's not even in the house right now. He's at work, so I can just talk freely. Like, I love working with him as my spouse, like as my partner. Like, I love being married to him. I love like just being in relationship with him, in community with him, for sure. But working with him, I saw a whole nother side, right? He has such a good focus for coming up with just like content. So like, he helps us to plan. Like, he takes the lead on like what we're going to talk about and like the rundown, which is normally something that I would do, but it's such a refresher to have someone else taking over to do some of that. You know, I do the editing and stuff like that. But he makes sure like our setup is right. Like, he sets us up like camera wise. He makes sure that like we get uploaded. So he's really efficient in that way. He gets excited. So it's really fun working with someone who has a lot of energy. Now, there have been days where we felt like we were getting a little stale, and it was just kind of like, all right, let's kind of spruce up the creativity. And he would be like, you know what? I'm gonna do some dad jokes. Everybody loves a dad joke. Like, let's get corny on the show. And it's just like, okay. So he brings a lot of fresh ideas. And when you're working with your spouse, it can be so interesting because like we're always married, but it's just kind of like, how do we not bring our stuff to set? How do we not bring our stuff to the show? Or how do we not bring the show to our day-to-day lives, right? So when it's time to work on the show, we're working on the show. When it's time to just be us kicking it, you know, watching TV, it's just us kicking it, Porsha and Jamal. Like, it's just us chilling. So when we do work together, it's work, right? It's production time. But outside of production time, the time that we set and designate, we don't talk about it. Like, we just go on like, you know, two regular old folk.
Right.
You know?
So it's really clear to have those boundaries, right? Like, that's the number one thing. See, that's why I don't think me and my husband could ever work, girl. We could never like work together because he gonna say something slick, and then I'm gonna have to say something slick back, and then, you know what I'm saying, and then, you know, it's gonna be a problem. So I'm always fascinated. Like, you know, I listen to other podcasts with couples. How Married Are You? With the Henrys, Glenn and Yvette Henry. I listen to the Love Hour with Kev and Mrs. Kev on Stage. You know, I listen to those other shows as well. And well, you know, sometimes with the How Married Are You, you can kind of feel when there's like a little bit of tension between them. But what I like about them is that because their show is about their relationship, it's about marriage, they bring those things to the forefront and they talk about those things on the show as a part of content. And as someone myself who shares a great deal about myself and my own journey in my content, and in the work that I do, I'm always aware of where that boundary lies, you know, because I do share a lot. You know, I talk about my journey and hope that helps my listeners and my viewers, my villagers, as I call them, helps my villagers to be able to heal. But I'm very, very aware that I have to have a personal boundary. There has to be something that is off limits. Even in that, you watched that Oprah interview, girl, the other day with Harry and Meghan.
You know, I did.
I had to download the CBS app to watch that, girl. But you know, when they started that interview, Oprah said, "Let's just be clear, nothing is off limits, but something was off limits." They did get to a point where both Meghan and Harry said, "No, we won't be talking about that."
Right.
We won't be talking about that. So there has to be some kind of boundary that you just won't cross. Yes. Some things are just sacred in that way. Yeah. So since we're talking about sacred things, you know, I think that's a perfect transition. See how I did that, girl? You know what I'm saying?
I peeped
I
it.
think I think that's a perfect transition into kind of talking about some of the other work that you do in terms of like your Reiki healing work and things like that. That's something that I'm very, very interested in. And so I guess my first question, which I'm sure is probably the question that everybody always asks, is how did you even get into doing healing work?
Yeah. Listen, that's such a great question. So I really like, truthfully, the church. So, yeah, exactly, the church. So
Wow.
I grew up
Okay.
in a church that was quite progressive. I grew up with Reiki healers in the church.
Wow.
Yeah, like I grew up with Reiki masters and Reiki healers in the church.
That
And
feels so it feels very counterintuitive though, because I grew up in a Black Catholic church. I'm from New Orleans, and New Orleans is a Catholic city, no matter what they try to tell you, girl. New Orleans is a Catholic city, okay? And so I grew up in the Catholic church, but it was a Black Catholic church. And, you know, it just seems to me that when it comes to Christianity in general, there always was this air of, don't mess with that. Don't mess with that stuff over there. Don't mess with that stuff over there. That's
mm,
not of God. That's not, And so it's for you to say that you grew up in a church or in a very progressive space that fostered that and facilitated that for you is, I think, refreshing. So yeah, go
yeah.
ahead.
Yeah, I grew up in a church that was heavily Afrocentric. We talked about, so like I grew up knowing, like, about the Orishas, and like I grew up knowing about, Afrocentricity and Christianity as an African religion.
Yeah.
That was co-opted and whitewashed, but that's a whole nother topic for a whole nother day, child. Okay.
Listen, we
But
got to have a side conversation then.
right. But really I grew up in a very progressive Afrocentric church. And so for me to be receiving Reiki at like 14 years old, it was normal for me. It was just something that was so normal. Like, and the invitation of inviting ancestors and speaking to ancestors and ancestor worship and ancestor communication, it was just normal to me. So
Yeah.
for me to show up in this way, it's so funny because I'm just becoming, now at almost 31. I'll be 31 in 2 weeks. I'm just becoming more comfortable talking about it. So like people in my immediate circle, like they know, or like my family has always known that I was an intuitive. My family has always saw me, talking to ancestors. Like, oh, I'm talking to grandpa, or I'm talking to uncle such and such, and they're like, okay. And so, for me to go ahead and get certified as a Reiki practitioner, I'm level 2 now. It was really a me coming home to self. And it was me completing a journey that I grew up witnessing and experiencing as a child.
Yeah.
And I felt in my soul, like, it's time. It's time to foster these gifts. It's time to cultivate these practices. And I can say, like, at first I was nervous, right? When I first started, living into it, like living into my whole self as a spiritual, practitioner, like the full self. I just started off by, with tarot and devotion. I just started off just using it in my daily practices for self. Before trying to give anybody a reading, I had to do the self work and the self healing. And
Yeah.
healing is a constant journey, right? There's always levels of more healing. Like I'm in a healing journey right now. It doesn't look like what it was when I was 20, but I'm in a healing process, right? So I had to get comfortable knowing that even though the rest of the world may say, well, this is taboo and this is taboo, what liberated and freed me is when I started in my own reading. If, to look at Jesus as a healer, right? Jesus is a healer. And it's like, well, if Jesus, who I preach about, is a healer, I need to be okay naming myself as such.
Come on,
If
because we are made in his image.
Hello,
Yeah.
if Jesus was discovered by astrologers, we call them 3 wise men or 3 kings, but they were astrologers.
Yes.
They followed a star to find him.
Come on, you better preach on this here IG
Right.
live,
And
girl.
then I look at Moses, right? We look at Moses like Moses is a prophet. But also Moses, what do you call sticking the rod into the water? How is that not alchemy?
Mm-hmm.
How is parting the Red Sea not God-given alchemy, right?
Mm-hmm.
How is turning the Nile into blood not being a diviner? Like, how is that not, doing divinity practices? Like, how is that not like a thing? And so I had to start asking questions for myself. All of these things were around, but somewhere when I got to like college, when I was no longer at my home church, because I went to college in Atlanta. Shout out to Spelman. Somewhere around these, Black evangelical folk that I got around, and white evangelical folk I got around, I realized somehow my practices felt shameful.
Yeah.
You know what
Yeah.
I mean? And I realized there was a place for me, but I had to reclaim it for myself. I literally had to go back home. I went to Yale for graduate school, which is in Connecticut, which is where I'm from. And I was going to school in my home church. And so I was able to see some of the practices that I had already had growing up, showing up, reading the text for myself, understanding the Bible in its original language. And I'm like, how is this evil? Like, wait a minute. This is not evil. People look at certain practices and call them evil because they don't realize it's not the practice. It's the person doing it. Like, it's a manipulation. If a person it's not the tools, it's the person utilizing the tools. So in the same way that Moses was acting holy, it's the same way that somebody down the street can, twist this thing around and use it for evil. There's nothing wrong with divination. There's nothing wrong with conjuring. There's nothing wrong with spiritual practices. But I had to name that for myself as a preacher. And I tell you, I feel about real liberated. Okay. So, so me being a Reiki practitioner was me coming home to self. And so I love healing work. I love the trust that people have with me, to do it. And to be in some intimate spaces in their lives and to be able to hold some truth, in a way that is caring, right? I tell people, like, I am not a therapist. I am not certified to be nobody's therapist. I'm a preacher. I'll pray for you. I'm a practitioner. I help to help you in your healing process. But you need a healing team, right? I am one person of a larger healing team. People need a healing team, right? It can't just be one person. But like I said, this was me coming home to self. And now I can name it for myself. Like, yeah, I'm an intuitive Reiki healer. I'm an intuitive healer. And it's wonderful. And God has made me in all of this.
Yes. I love it. I absolutely love it. When I saw that, this was a thing that you were into, and that this was something that an ability that you have, right? I was immediately drawn to that because for me, in my creative journey, my spiritual journey has been a huge piece of that, right? And so I was at a place about 2 years ago where, spiritually and emotionally, I was distraught. I wasn't in a good place. I was traveling for work, so that had me away from my husband. We was in 2 separate countries for extended periods of time. I was missing family members, missing funerals, weddings, birthdays, births, like I was just missing everything. I was just over it, I was feeling very lonely, very isolated, and things like that. And so it just was a very trying time for me. And during that time, trying to create was extremely difficult for me. It was extremely difficult. And I know that some people that draw inspiration during times of pain and chaos, I am not one of those people, right? So that works for some, but it does not work for all. I am not one of those people. In order for me to really be able to create at a high level, I have to be at peace, like there has to be a peace or a calm. that exist in me, because I create from love. I create
Yes.
from empathy. I create from understanding and compassion, right? And so if I'm in a place emotionally or spiritually where I can't give myself that empathy or give myself that love or give myself that compassion, then it's really, really difficult for me to authentically create something that I can give to the outside world. So how has your Reiki work, your spiritual work, and this kind of like coming into your own, coming into yourself, how has that impacted your creative process?
Yeah. Oh my gosh, Latrice, you are asking bomb questions. I have to say, oh
I
my
be preparing,
goodness.
girl. I be taking this serious, you know? I'm so
Yes,
like,
you are doing awesome. You are doing amazing. I'm gonna say,
thank
I'm
you.
just put that out there. You are doing amazing, and you are amazing.
Thank
Um,
you.
yeah. Oh my goodness. So me being a Reiki practitioner, so first of all, I self heal, right? So I do self healing and self Reiki work, just to continue to align and balance my chakras, and especially in my creative process, I work on my heart chakra. I work on my throat chakra, especially as a preacher and as a podcaster. And that, so those spaces could be clear. And then also in my solar plexus area as well. So I say that to say, and well, all of them, and also to stay grounded, right? So the grounding process is so important for me. Because if I'm not grounded and if I'm feeling like I'm out of my body all the time, where's the roots, right? Where am I being rooted and centered? So the censoring piece helps me. I'm getting emotional now. It
Yeah.
helps me so much to stay grounded, to remember what is the purpose.
Yeah. Yeah.
Reiki helps me to remember the purpose, the why, right? I don't like to just talk just to talk, right? My words mean something and my words carry weight. So for me, the self Reiki is about my why. Why am I showing up? How am I showing up? Give me something to say that is already inside of me that I just need to pull out, right? Everything I need is already inside of me, but Reiki helps me to pull it out.
Yeah.
It helps me to go deep inside of the journey of my own soul, to pull from my creative spaces, even if I don't feel like creating. Because sometimes I don't feel like it and I just won't, right? If I don't feel like it, I won't push myself. But then I
Yes.
also feel those tugs of spirit saying, we must do this today. And so I lean on the help of my tools. So I may pull an oracle card to say, all right, what is the inspiration that you are asking me to speak from today, spirit? Where are you asking me to create? Now it's winter time, right? We were getting ready to have spring. Spring is coming. So I am starting to emerge a little bit more. It's blooming season. I'm coming more into my creative stuff. But the winter, I've been chilling, right?
Yeah.
As the earth has been chilling, I've been chilling as a
Yeah.
time for just rest. But now I feel myself waking up. March 1st hit, and I'm like, ooh, spring awakening is on the way. And I feel myself, just naturally being connected to both the earth, connected to my spirit, connected to mine, and then also being connected to my heart, right? I'm paying attention to the times in order for me to pull out of myself what's already there for the creativity to come out. So all of it is interconnected.
Yeah.
But it starts in self, right? I use the tools, but it starts in self.
Yeah. You talked about, I agree with all of that 100%. You talked about, like if you're just not feeling it, you don't force yourself to do that, right? That's a lesson. I think I learned that lesson maybe about a year ago,
Mm-hmm.
where I really just, and really honestly, just recently, probably within the last 6 months or so, have I really started to honor that for myself. Like I became aware of it about a year ago, but I really started to be intentional about honoring that. Just last night, to be honest, I had a live stream scheduled. I do a live stream Tuesday on my Facebook page, And it's just an informal conversation where I just go and talk to my villagers, and usually we have a certain topic that we talk about, but it's super, super informal. It's just a chance for us to see each other, or for them to see me, and then they talk to me in the comments and stuff like that. I have been so tired lately because, we got lots of things going on with Afros and audio. We have the podcast launch formula workshop is tomorrow. So if you didn't get your tickets, go to afrosandaudio.com and get that. You know what I'm saying? It's only $10 and it's worth its weight in gold, silver, chrome, and platinum. And so listen, it's shout out to Jerry the Third. It's thebomb.com. But we've been working on a lot of things with Afros and audio. We have a couple of things coming out with Vanguard Podcast Network. So we've been working on, and I've been really diving into producing something other than my own shows, which is a really big deal for me. My 9-to-5 job has been super busy. My business, I'm launching my first funnel for my business. So it's like, I know, right? So I've been working very, very hard the last couple months or whatever. And so yesterday I was so tired. I was just so tired. And I said, okay, I got this live stream at 8 o'clock. So it was about 6 o'clock. I said, I'm gonna just, shut my eyes for about 20-30 minutes and kind of, refresh myself. But I don't want to sleep because then I'm gonna be up all night. Girl, I laid on that sofa and went to sleep. I slept through that live stream. I'm talking about I slept through all of that. And when I got up, I was like, my instinct was, oh my God, I slept through my live stream. I can't believe I did that. But then I very quickly was like, girl, I'll make it up to him. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm not going to shame myself for my body doing what it needed to do in order for me to be okay, right? Yes, Experience Jay said, Spirit said, no, daughter. Take a rest. That's exactly what it was, And so I'm not going to shame myself for doing what I need to do in order to be okay. Because the reality is that if I had tried to do that live stream while I was just tired and exhausted and all of that, it wouldn't have been good for nobody involved. I would have felt bad because I wouldn't have felt like I gave them my everything, and then they wouldn't have really enjoyed it because they would have felt that I wasn't there, like that I wasn't really present. So, this idea of making sure that you are in alignment within yourself before and while you create, so that you can really give the best version of you, so that you can really operate at your highest capacity, so you can have 3 shows that you host and 3 other most shows that you produce on, you know what I'm saying, so that you can really show up and exist in the way and in the space that you deserve to exist in, Yeah. So talk to me a little bit more about this tarot thing, right? So my niece, I love my niece. Hey, Amber, it's my baby. She is like me reincarnated. It's crazy. One of my friends said, girl, if I didn't know no better, I think you snuck off and had a child, but she is like me. She does tarot readings and things like that. So, I've had her read my tarot before and things like that. I'm always interested in the interpretation process of tarot cards, because sometimes I think people are a little hesitant about getting readings because it's like, well, I don't want to, like, you can't see the future, right? Like, so you're trying to take the place of God and you're trying to see the future. And I'm like, but it's not really trying to see the future, but I never really have the right words to really explain how tarot can help you and guide you through your journey. So can you provide us with, a eloquent way of understanding how do we use tarot in our day-to-day lives?
Yeah. So this is what I'll say, right? So I will give a cliff note, because we could talk about tarot all night, right? I mean, really, like we could write books. So this is what I'll say. If anyone who's new to tarot, tarot is a deck of cards. There are major and minor arcana cards. They follow along with the elements, fire, water, mind, body, not mind, body. Well, yes, because coins is body, it's material. But yeah, so coins, swords, wands, and cups. So you have that, and then you have these major arcana cards that take you through basically through a journey that starts with the Fool and ends with the World. So it's literally like a life's journey. So in the Cliff Notes version, with tarot, it is speaking to the current situation, right? It can give you some insight as to what could be ahead, but it's not necessarily fortune telling, right? I don't like, this whole, fortune telling, let me tell you future. Like, no, actually it's insight into like the right now, literally like in this moment. And if you decide to make a change, the reading has now changed because you made a decision. It's literally speaking to the current circumstance of where you are. And right now, right, when you're getting your reading, it's speaking to a right now situation. The interpretation is for you in the present. Yeah. If you go back 3 weeks from now, you might have made a different change, but it can let you know what is the possible outcome of a situation if you stay stuck where you are right now. So tarot really is a guide to help us either course correct or stay the course. It's just a guidance. It's spirit giving us guidance. Nothing to be afraid about. It's not necessarily if somebody trying to tell you, well, this is like, you know what? Sometimes people will use it to manipulate. That is not this. That is no. You a bad practitioner. Don't do that. Really, but no, it's a guide. It's a guide to help you in your journey and speaking to a current situation. I use tarot to communicate with my ancestors. I have 2 decks specifically for my ancestors, the Dust to Onyx and then the Hoodoo Tarot deck I use to communicate with my ancestors, to channel messages. I ask them like, what am I supposed to be doing about this? Or what should I be thinking about this situation? Should I take this opportunity? Should I not? Like, what are you thinking about this? Or even to spank me on the butt, like, get yourself together, Porsha. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's for that too. So, in terms of reading for other people, I would say like the same thing I just shared is kind of like it's speaking to your right now. Yeah. And you have the power, right? You and spirit have the power to co-create your future. The gifts you need and the tools you need to succeed are already inside of you. And it helps you to guide on how to best find an authentic answer for your circumstances. So, people give, a year ahead. Some people give like a year ahead reading. A year ahead, it's like, this is the possible outcomes based on where you currently are. If you're doing a daily reading, give us today, my daily bread. Like, this is for today. Tomorrow's a whole nother set of situations, but this is for today. And so, so essentially, tarot really speaks, like I said, to your current situation, and giving you guidance for the moment. And like I said, we could really spend like so much time on this,
and we will. We're not gonna do it right now because Instagram is gonna kick us off in 12 minutes.
I know.
You and I will have a follow-up conversation if that's okay with you. Yeah. Like Experience Jay said in the comments, you still have to make your own decisions, right? And so I think that, obviously I am a therapist by trade. I'm also a life coach as well, but I've been a therapist for over 10 years now. And I think what people don't understand is that all of these different helping areas, so tarot, Reiki, counseling, church, like all of those things, they only exist to provide guidance.
That's
at the end of the day, no matter what your choice of spiritual alignment or whatever you call it, healing or self-care or whatever it is, you have to make the decision at the end of the day. And you have, that free will. You have that ability to direct your life in whatever direction you choose to send it, right? And so we have to, I think, open our minds up a little bit more to the possibility of all of the different things that are contributing to the decisions that we're making. I think a lot of times we get shut off to a lot of that intuition. We get shut off to a lot of that connection that we have to the universe, to God, to the higher power, to, you know, whatever it is that you choose to call it, right? Because that's your business. Shout out to Tabitha Brown. But we get shut off from that because we disconnect from self. And
That's it.
we stop listening to the internal voice
That's
that
right.
exists inside of us. And that is the connection to that power. That is how, you know, communication and guidance and things like that takes place from one realm to another. And so I'm very, very interested in the tarot process. And I think that it's something that for creatives who sometimes struggle to create, as a creative who has been in a position where I've struggled to create, I understand that it's excruciating to have something that wants to be birthed, but you just can't get it out. Like something is blocking you, something is keeping you from being able to do that. To be a creative who cannot create is a terrible, terrible place to be in. And I don't wish that on anybody. And so, you know, these things like Reiki, these things like, you know, prayer and chakra alignment and, you know, all of these other things, they help us to create that peace and that alignment within ourselves that allows us to be able to create freely. And I've been a lot more intentional as of late about, you know, really kind of healing my own spiritual connection and like taking my own kind of spiritual journey and things like that. Because I got issues with the church, girl. I ain't gonna lie. I got issues with the church. You know what I'm
We
saying?
all do at the end of the day. I promise you.
Listen, but I love the Lord and I do believe in God and I do believe that there is a bigger purpose. That's something that I definitely, but it's the institution of the church that I have an issue with. And so I have really been working hard to try to reconcile that within myself because I recognize that it's holding me back in this creative space. And I have decided that for me in my life, I want to live life as a creative, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I have to get that sorted out and things. And ever since I've been intentional about healing that space for myself, that space within myself, I feel like my creativity has just been off the charts, you know, like it has just opened me up to so many things. And I wish that for everybody who's watching tonight, you know, and everybody that you know, because it really is a beautiful thing. It really is. Yeah. Experience J says, my relationship with God had strengthened so much since therapy and tarot collectively forever changed. Yes, ma'am, girl. Them things go hand in hand. You know what
I
I'm
know
saying?
that's right.
They work hand in hand. So, Porsha, we have a few more minutes, about 7 minutes, and I just wanted to, first of all, just say once again how much I really have enjoyed. I mean, an hour went by so fast. It's
I
crazy.
know.
I really have enjoyed this time with you and talking to you, and really, you know, just hopefully giving people a different way of looking at their creativity and things of that nature, because I think it's important. It's very important. If you had one or two pieces of advice that you could give to a new podcaster, what would that be?
Ooh, that's so good. I would say, um, you know, and I feel like I got to be a little churchy for 2 seconds. I would say, in the beginning, God created. And I
Mm.
would, you know, and that same
Girl.
divinity is in us. In the
Mm.
beginning, God created. Before we know anything else about God, we know that God is a creator.
Yes.
And that same creative energy that is within the being, the essence of God, the universe, however we choose to name spirit, is also inside of us.
Yeah.
And I would say that that piece is already in you. Whatever you choose to speak, whatever you choose to say, remember what the intention is and have fun. You know that you were created to create, so create and have fun. It's your thing. Do what you want to do. That's my
Yeah.
that is my that is my advice, to have fun with it, because you never know where it may lead you. You know, it started from my journey. It started with me and my friend Jamie, you know, just getting together and, you know, to do Just Two Pearls. And I never thought, you know, just starting with the podcast would lead me here, into my own authentic voice. So I would say do that. And if you need to help, you know, help tapping into your creative ability and power, I just want to plug JT Perry and Jeanette Lewis of Inner Sun Alchemy. And I want to plug to Tamil Jones of The Overflow. I want to plug them because these women have been so impactful over the last 3 years of my life. One, with me naming who I am and my voice, but also just helping creatives come into their creative power. So Jeanette Lewis, J.T. Perry, and Tamil Jones of The Overflow, I just want to plug them because they are amazing and they will help people really find their creative voice. And so I just want to plug them. And then plug me too.
Yes, yes. So go ahead and plug you. Let everybody know where they can find you, where they can follow you, and how they can work with you if they're interested in doing that.
Follow me here on Instagram at Porshanality. I'm at Porshanality everywhere. And then also hit us up over at Porshanality.com. That's our website for the Porshanality Media. And if you ever just want to say hey to me, I'm at hello@justporsha.com. And I'm getting ready to release my website soon. So yeah, you can find me at hello@justporsha.com.
Yes, 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 yes. So y'all make sure that y'all reach out to Porsha and Porshanality Media. Porsha is an amazing spirit. I'm so glad that I made that. I made a post, right? You joined me from the Women of Color group on Facebook, yes?
That's right.
Shout out to Women of Color Facebook group,
Yes.
which they're
Doing
actually
it.
moving off of Facebook very soon. And Afros and Audio also has a community outside of Instagram and outside of Facebook. We have a brand new Afros and Audio community network, which is, I keep wanting to say hosted by, but it's not hosted by. That's why I keep, because I want to say hosted. But it is powered by the Mighty Networks. So it's an app that you download on your phone, Mighty Networks, MIGHTYNETWORKS, and you can join us in the Afros and Audio podcast community. We have lots of things going on over there. First and foremost, community, collaboration, education, and networking. I mean, you name it, we got it over there. So please come and join us and be a part of our community as we grow, and be able to provide you with more educational opportunities, more networking opportunities, and everything else. We do a room on Clubhouse every Saturday at 3 p.m. So y'all make sure if you're on the Clubhouse, join us in the Afros and Audio podcast community club, because we over there. Yes. Tomorrow, if you go to afrosandaudio.com, you can find out information about our upcoming series, for the virtual series that we're going to be doing. The very first one is going to be on the 24th of March, so not next Wednesday, but the following Wednesday, March 24th, and we are talking about disability justice, which is one of the things that not enough people think about. When you're creating your podcast, you need to consider that there's an entire market of people that you're missing. And those are people who are differently abled, people who have hearing issues, people who have vision issues. All of those individuals still want to receive your content, and you have a responsibility to make sure that you provide content for them or make your content accessible for them. And if you're not sure how to do that, because if we're gonna be all the way real, girl, I ain't know how to do it. I ain't gonna lie, I ain't know how to do it, you know. So I learned a lot as we were working with Bri and Thomas to create this particular workshop. And so I'm sure that you all are gonna learn a lot as well. Head over to afrosandaudio.com, register, get all the information that you need, and join us in the community, okay? Porsha, thank you so very, very, very much.
Thank you,
I have
Latrice.
thoroughly enjoyed this. And let me tell you, girl, your head wrap is off the chain. I never could really get a head wrap right, girl. So I just feel like I don't have the right shape head. You know, everybody can't wear a head wrap. You know what I'm saying? But you are wearing that head wrap, sis. And your energy is just, I mean, your energy is beautiful. So I'm going to be reaching out to you, girl. I might get you to read me a little tarot. You know what I'm saying? You know, like, I like to get my tarot reading from people with good energy.
Yes.
All right, y'all. So that's all we got for y'all tonight. Thank you so much for joining us. We love y'all and we appreciate y'all. And until next time, be well. Bye, y'all.